Welcome to Divisive Issues, the foul-mouthed, spoiler-filled comic book podcast where two fans and two non-fans talk about controversial and noteworthy comic books. I'm Ryan.
I'm Sly.
I'm Phil.
And I'm Darryl.
We're back with more Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel will never end. Captain Marvel issue, that's all we're going to cover from now on. But when we talk about Captain Marvel, we forgot the most important Captain Marvel of all.
The first.
The one that's no longer even called Captain Marvel anymore, but
Yes.
he was the first.
So we talked about Captain Marvel a little, or if you've seen the Divisive Issues YouTube series on the history of Captain Marvel, you should know who we're talking about. We're talking about Shazam. So
Yes.
we won't get into all the legal stuff because we've talked about that enough, I think. But basically, DC bought out a company called Fawcett Comics that had Captain Marvel, and eventually they were sick of fighting over it, so they're like, fine, it's Shazam.
Yeah.
And in this book, they don't ever call him Captain Marvel, they don't mention the word Marvel, and in the movie that just came out, one of the reasons why we're doing it, he's just called Shazam.
And the movie, based on the trailers at least, it looks like it's very inspired from this particular rendition.
So yeah, I didn't know this movie was even coming out, really. And then I saw a trailer after reading this, and I'm like, oh, it's every scene from this comic.
Yeah, it's just this book. I did the exact same thing as Phil. Well, I knew this movie was coming out, though, but I didn't watch any of the trailers. And then I read this. I was interested in seeing, it's like, oh, what are they going to do for the movie? And then as I was watching, I'm like, it is like almost beat for beat this comic. So I was like, oh, I guess I've seen the movie.
So we are going to be covering the Geoff Johns and Gary Frank like backup origin story in from his Justice League book.
Backup origin story?
So what the thing that I want to point out is Geoff Johns had a Justice League run that is not good.
Wait, so we have to clarify.
We have to
Geoff
go
Johns
further
bit.
back.
Okay.
So we did one Geoff Johns book so far, Flashpoint.
Flashpoint is not good, but usually Geoff Johns is like one of my favorite writers, if not my favorite comic book
Yeah,
writer.
so that's the thing. Geoff Johns is one of the best comic writers to ever exist. The problem is there was an era where he sucked. I don't think he purposely sucked. He just didn't give a fuck for a long time.
Purposely sucked.
Well, okay, so what Geoff Johns is really, really good at is he takes like dead franchises or like characters that haven't been around in like a while, and he reinvigorates
So,
them.
Slice Fetish.
Yeah,
Yes.
but he reinvigorates them where not so much like the dramatic reimagining, but what he does is he reincorporates and recontextualizes a lot of like their original elements. So
and like everything, like even the most
Yeah.
minor stuff, like we'll get into it by the end of this story.
yeah, so he brings back like everything, but usually in a way where it's like, here's like the reason why, like he'll explain like gimmicks and stuff like that. Some people find it really obnoxious. I eat that shit up.
Me too, obviously. And I just
Yeah.
on the cover of this is a trade. We're reading the trade because it was collected in the Justice League series, and it says on the trade, this might be the best, most consistently enjoyable story Johns has told. It's the Superman story with Gary Frank. That is not really a compliment because that was like his last good book until he did Shazam. Because when he did Justice League, if you ever read Justice, like we talk about Flashpoint was shit, but if you read Geoff Johns' Justice League, it's like if you found out Christopher Nolan directed the Transformers films. Like he did not give a fuck about those books.
Yeah.
It really feels like he wrote those books just as an excuse to write Shazam as a backup. Like DC said,
It really, really feels that way.
yes.
So one of the things that, because Geoff Johns is always like reinvigorating franchises, when he's put on like a very popular or existing franchise that like doesn't need that shot in the arm, he doesn't always like know what to do, and it kind of spins its wheels a little bit sometimes, and like his Justice League is like the perfect example of that. But at the end of a lot of Justice League issues, they had a backup story, which like in the Silver Age, there was like a second story in the book that was usually only a few pages long, and it knocked the price of the book up $1. And even when the book Justice League was terrible, the Shazam backups were still like super good. And I remember talking to Joe, because Joe is a huge Shazam fan.
Wait, hold
and
on. What do you mean by Shazam backups?
So there was the Justice League book.
Yeah, that he was on, yeah.
Yeah, then the story would end after like 22 pages, and then there'd be an extra 5 to 10 pages of this book.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, so the reason why when we go through it, it's not going to be broken up by issues, it's because it's lots of mini vignettes that were really just one long ongoing
Wow,
story.
I feel like that would be kind of confusing to read, because this is a pretty like long, extensive story that all flows from beginning to end.
It's so long.
Yeah, and I can't imagine
So-
reading 5 pages at a time.
I really feel because no one in DC or in mainstream for the longest time, because Shazam used to be a big major character in the 40s, but like who knows him nowadays?
Yeah.
But
And actually, the interesting interestingly enough, the reason why like anybody cares about Shazam is Jerry Ordway brought him back in the 90s, but him and his counterpart Black Adam didn't really become like mainstays of the universe until Geoff Johns incorporated them into his Justice Society book.
Geoff Johns is the most definitive like Shazam writer like ever.
Yeah.
Because like no one else cared about Shazam.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And then editorial super fucked up the franchise, and Geoff Johns like turned them all into statues to just like put them out of their misery. And then when they rebooted, he was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. And after he told this book, the characters disappeared for a while until Geoff Johns just relaunched it a couple months ago. So like he's the one keeping this franchise like really going.
Okay.
And also, Gary Frank is one of the best artists at DC. By the way,
I'm a big Gary Frank fan.
So he was like Peter David with Genesis. It's
Yeah,
like the
pretty
only
much.
character
Exactly.
that cares about him.
Well, that's where you get the best Captain Marvel stuff when one writer the shit with Jim Starlin about the original one or whatever.
I did want to comment, Gary Frank, like this art is really fantastic. Everyone has a lot of personality to them. Everyone's drawn well, and there's like all the action scenes flow nicely, and there's not like a point where I'm like, this clearly isn't his strength.
Yeah, and Gary Frank and Geoff Johns have collaborated many times before. They did Superman Secret Origin, where they like retold Superman's origin, and they also had a really successful Superman run. That's one of my favorite runs together. And they did, if you're familiar with the Batman Earth 1 books. So like Johns and Frank together are a team that I think works really, really well together, because Johns always gets like the emotional heart of every character, and Gary Frank is really good at drawing faces.
It's like Mark Millar and Steve McNiven. If one of them, both of them pointed away from
That's
one.
what I was gonna say. They're like the light side universe of that combination.
Yeah, pretty much. So we are going to be talking about those Justice League backups. If you go and buy like a Shazam trade, it's probably going to be this one.
Is that what it's called? Like a backup when it's just like a couple pages of like another comic at the end of one comic?
Yeah.
Okay.
I never knew.
Nor did I. I've been on this podcast for 2 years. Didn't know that had a name.
So they'll use backups to like push a character that maybe doesn't have an audience yet, or try out, like a lot of times they'll put like backups in Batman so that like try out new creative teams telling like short stories and stuff like that. It's like a way to put the riskier stuff in a place where people are gonna buy Justice League no matter
Yeah,
what.
or people are going to buy Batman. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Adverts for your own stuff.
And I mentioned before that I would talk to Joe about it, because when this book was coming out, he was buying Justice League and he'd read it and be like, this is so dumb and bad. And then he would get to the back and be like, this is why I bought it. So he was basically spending like $4 a month for like 5 to 10 pages.
That sounds
But, you know,
that sounds like Joe.
The two people keeping Shazam around, Geoff Johns and Joe.
So our story opens, and it's about like there's this guy that goes into an elevator, and it shows that he's all nice. He gives like a homeless man money. He holds the door for a lady. He presses all the elevator buttons that people need pressed, and then suddenly everyone teleports away in like a flash of lightning. And when the elevator door opens again, he's in like this mystical sanctum.
Yeah.
Like an ancient temple.
Yeah, it's a big like lightning bolt on the ground, and there's all these thrones sitting in one room, and all of them are empty except there's an old man on one. And the old man asks him basically, are you worthy? And he doesn't know what he's saying, and then suddenly like lightning zaps him and he says, no, not you, and it sends this guy away. And it's revealed like through a page where it shows like there's someone watching him confess to this on tape, and then he's watching like all these other people confess to this on tape, that this keeps happening.
And it's really, this is such a well done like thing, the way they do it, where it's like he says all these people saying, I was back home, I was back in my bedroom, and then at the end they're all saying, you know, the guy seemed mean, he didn't say his name, he just said Shazam, and then a lot of them are saying Shazam.
Yeah.
And it's like a shittier writer would be like, this is the 5th person today who said that they got teleported away, and the old man said Shazam, and it's like, this in 3 panels does it really well, and is very like just natural, as opposed to just like, I will tell you about this thing that is happening.
And the thing that I really like about this is all the different people, it's not like one recurring type of person. There's like older women, there's like Middle Eastern men, there's, you know, like young
It's from
kids.
all
There's, like, it's
around the
every
world.
type of person.
Which is like, okay, so this can happen anywhere. And then we get this guy, I forget what this doctor's name is.
Dr. Savannah.
Dr. Savannah. So Dr. Savannah, he is finding out the secret of the Shazam, because he believes it can bring magic back to the world, and he's a scientist, and he couldn't use science to bring back his family, but he wants to use magic to bring back his family.
To bring back or cure, I thought is that...
Oh, cure. I think it was
They
cure.
need to be
Right.
cured, and science has failed them, so he's
They
like...
need a miracle.
You gotta get magic, I guess.
And so Savannah, just to quickly explain, The Captain Marvel was originally a Superman ripoff, basically, except with magic instead of the alien stuff.
And Little Boy into Big Boy, right?
Yeah, Little Boy,
Yes.
Big Boy.
Like
yeah.
that's a pretty big change. I feel like it's a
That's a big
kid
change,
that
yeah.
turns into the superhero.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's his distinction feature. But a lot of things from Superman Echo into Shazam,
Yeah.
including Dr. Savano, who was just like Luthor.
Oh my god! Yeah, how did I not see this?
So he was pretty much just Lex Luthor, but the
A
reason
bald evil scientist.
Yeah, but the reason why I really like the way John's like modernized him. Now, I could be wrong. Let us know in our Facebook group or our Discord, because I'm not super familiar with a lot of Shazam lore outside of Geoff Johns. But every time I've read Savannah, he's basically just Lex Luthor with lots of wacky gadgets and stuff. But this time, Johns introduces him more as like he's yearning for magic, and he's almost like turning his back on science.
Yeah.
Which separates him from Lex Luthor, where like if he was just a bald mad scientist like hungry for power, it would be so apparent. But the fact that you guys didn't even think about that shows that they do a pretty decent job at distancing him from that mad scientist angle that he used to have.
Yeah,
Because he starts out being like, we need magic more than anything.
yeah, and not just
He's
that.
not like,
He's not like evil per se. Like he is clearly like a bad guy throughout the story, but he's not the main villainous driving force. Like
Yes,
he's not.
yes.
He doesn't like rub his hands together when he sees a kid get hit by a car, type of a deal.
Yeah.
He explains though that there's the story of the legend of the Black Adam, which was he was a slave in ancient Egypt. Or no, it's not Egypt. It's some mystical land, Kadak.
Kandak.
Was he in Egypt before the reboot? Ryan? I feel
Well,
like he
the thing
was.
is, I think he was always in Kandak, but like Kandak is very clearly Egypt.
Yeah, very clearly Egypt inspired.
And so the Black Adam, as a slave, he walked into the fortress known as the Rock of Eternity, and inside were sorcerers and sorceresses, and they granted him, like, he became their champion. He was given magical power, and he vanquished the seven sins.
Until he vanished mysteriously, according to the ancient text.
just when the world needed him most, he vanished.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, 100 years later.
Yeah, and now he's going to look, and he's like, magic exists, and I'll know how to find it. And the guy talking to him is giving him a funny face, like, sure, buddy. So then we cut to Philadelphia, and inside of a orphanage. Right? Yeah. There's Billy Batson, who he's the Shazam little boy into big boy. He's the little boy.
Yeah.
And historically, he's always been like the most like cheesy, gee golly, let's go save the day kind of character. And Johns plays with this where like he's looking out the window and he's like the holidays are just hard. He's talking to a potential adoptive
First, I'm sorry, Miss Glover. I saw some kids and their parents out there. Their arms are full of presents and they were drinking hot chocolate.
Yeah.
And they goes, do you like hot chocolate? And they're like, we like it very much, Billy, as like the couple's like swooning over this.
Yeah.
And they're putting on like, it's funny because as I was reading this, I'm like, okay, he's very clearly like, he's down on his luck orphan. He doesn't, have a lot of friends and who knows about his
and
parents.
another little like continuity note is normally Billy is a radio like journalist that he would like go to his school club and have a radio show. Now he has a podcast about social work.
I relate to him.
I am little boy. One day I'll turn into big boy.
So they interview with Billy, and they're thinking about adopting him into their foster home. And he's really surprised because most people don't usually go for the older kid. But they're like, we'd be happy to just be your parents. And he's like, wow, that's great. And then as they're walking out, Billy turns to the
orphan woman caseworker.
Yeah, and he goes,
orphan woman. That's her name. Orphan woman.
And he goes, what a couple of idiots. I was like, oh, we have a twist early on here. And then she starts pulling him by his collar and saying, quiet, they might hear you. And he's like, man, I wish I was an adult and now your stupid system.
And she's like, you better not screw this up.
I'm running out of part of your system.
Yeah.
And I'm not an adult.
So Billy's onerous, and he's kind of like a problem child, but there's the heart of gold behind him. But I liked this twist on because this was one of the things where like I thought this was going to go in the pure direction where he's had such a bad life. Instead, it's like, oh, okay, like he's kind of like a problem child. But it's because he's had a bad life.
This was a controversial choice when Johns did it, because a lot of people were like, well, that's like the pure spirit of the character. Like, is this like the Zack Snyder thing that everybody's edgy?
Yeah.
But like, they don't make him like a bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
No. He's just, and like, he's 15 years old.
He's not edgy.
Yeah.
It's just that he's just like, he's a rebellious like kid. You're not sitting there being like, this is so obnoxious. You're like, oh, okay, like I can see this. This feels real.
You're more believable this way.
I agree.
Yeah.
There's no scene of like splash page of being like, maybe you'll lick my balls, Miss Glover. It shows him grinning at the camera.
Or instead, he's just like, I wish I didn't have to live here with you, old lady.
Yeah.
He is still kind of an asshole. Like,
Yes.
Yeah, but he's not like he's not like he's not like murdering people.
No, he's just like an asshole teenager, which is like obnoxious and aggravating to me to just even read.
Oh, as a teacher.
I get too much of this, but I'm like, yeah, he's not that bad. He's just a kid.
Yeah, which I enjoyed reading this because I was actually getting flashbacks a bit to like Carol Danvers, where I'm like I like them being more interesting as characters rather than like I'm a flawless thing you're supposed to idolize and look up to. Instead, I'm like, this is interesting because it's like because these people actually do struggle with conflicts of good and bad rather than like you just gotta do the right thing.
Yeah.
The next day they arrive and he's arguing with the old lady like right outside their house.
The caseworker.
Yeah, the caseworker. And they open up the door.
He calls her an old maid. She calls him a pest.
Yeah.
He calls her
prune face.
Yeah. And this is when she says, like, this is, you've already been through 4 houses. Could you not be a little shit for just, like, just a little while? In 3 years, you'll be out of my system, and you'll be 18, and I won't have to lose my pension because a kid ran away.
Yeah.
And he wants to play along just because he doesn't want to go deal with her anymore either. So he's like, I'll play along with these fucking people just because I don't deal with your shit anymore. Caseworker.
Yeah.
Yep. So they're all smiles when they bring Billy in. They say, like, she's already taken care of his, the school's been notified and he's ready for enrollment. And he goes inside and he meets the rest of the family, and there's like 5 other people there.
Yeah, so we have Mary, who's like an older girl. Mm-hmm. So these are all other adopted kids. There's like a big exposition dump where they introduce themselves. Mary's parents are dead. They adopted her. Then there's Freddie, who's handicapped, and he is on crutches. His parents are in jail. There's Pedro, who we don't really learn very much about.
We don't get a lot about Pedro other than he's kind of like quiet.
Yeah, he's quiet. There's Eugene, who's really smart,
the nerd.
And there's Darla, who's like this small, really bubbly, like that character we were talking about before. That's just like so good and pure all the time.
Yeah, heart of gold.
And they're the other kids that the parents adopted.
Yeah. And they're basically like a big, like, rambunctious, energetic family. Like, Darla grabs on to Billy and goes, I'm Darla. And Mary starts explaining that they have house rules where it's like, put the toilet down if you put it up. There's curfews. They have to do laundry. And dirty dishes are family activities. And everyone's, like, all excited. And they're all following each other. And Billy's just like, family rule? Like, this is lame.
Well, he's like, we're not family. We're all just a bunch of orphans.
Yeah, I'm not your brother.
He tells that Tina, the youngest one, she's like so excited to
Darla, the youngest one.
Darla.
It's because he calls her Tiny
He calls her
Tina.
Tiny Tina, sorry. What's that reference to? I don't know.
I
Tiny
don't
Tim.
know.
But he says, you leave me alone, I leave you alone. We're not family, I'm not your brother. None of you are a family. And that makes her start crying. And she runs away.
And Mary threatens him here, which I was like, that's cool, because she's like the protective older sister. She's like,
Yeah.
Darla's parents are like, didn't want her and left her here, so like, don't you fucking make her cry, you piece of shit.
Yeah.
And
so-
she said, and he's like, I don't give a Billy's like, I don't give a fuck. And she's like, wow, you don't give a fuck about anybody yourself. You're a piece of shit, Billy.
Yeah.
Well, they're actually saying you don't care about anyone other than yourself.
Yeah,
that's not a
as
Villar
usual.
comic.
Yeah, it's not a lot of comic. This is actually very. This is the most like family oriented comic.
We've read so many shitty comics that we have to specify that people aren't saying, you're a piece of shit. No, you're a piece of shit. Like, that is not actual dialogue.
And Mary and Freddie have always been Captain Marvel characters. They are like part of the Marvel family. But now like John's just expands it a little bit more. So now there's like the Shazam family just has like a couple extra characters of like more racial and gender diversity, which is cool.
Yeah, because it's like Freddie and Mary are the white kids, whereas everyone else is some minority.
Yes. Yeah.
So he's like, whatever. Like, she even knows me. He pulls out a picture of, we presume it's his parents. It's like a black and white photo, and there's...
Oh, man looks exactly like he looks like when he comes to Shazam.
Oh, I was thinking this is just like Superman and Lois Lane sitting next to each other. And I'm like, is it canon? That's
Shazam
their
is
son?
Superman. Shazam is Superman.
Yeah.
So.
And they're sitting at a zoo, like on a bench next to a tiger.
So yeah, he's just like, no one even knows me or understands me anymore. But the one thing I forgot to mention about Darla, her parents, one of the reasons why she's so sensitive is her parents, they're not in jail, they're not dead. They just didn't want her. So they just put her up for adoption because, and like, I really like that they're not all orphans with the exact same origin.
Yeah.
They all ended up in these places because of different circumstances. And I think that that's really interesting. And like the diversity of the cast is more than just like, identity. They all have different reasons for like needing a family.
And then you get this nice picture of like Billy's like rubbing his head and goes, man, and then he looks out the window for a little bit and then he like grabs his bag and says, I didn't mean to make her cry. And then like lightning flashes in the sky and there's kind of like an old man's face in the clouds. I just think that's weird.
Yeah.
But I like that.
He's like, that's weird.
Because that is a sign, like how we talked about how like Billy, he's not your edgy edgelord asshole,
Yeah.
because he's actually saying, like, even if he was mean to Darla, he sits there and thinks about it. It's like, man, like that was kind of like, he didn't want to make her cry.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree.
The next day, Darla's okay with it. She's like, "Oh, wake up! We gotta go for breakfast. We have to eat together." And Billy's like, "Oh, she's not mad at me anymore." She's like, "She has a very short-term memory."
Well, Eugene, the smart one's like, I think there's something wrong with her short-term memory. And then Mary says there's nothing wrong with her. Staying mad is a waste of time.
And then you get Billy's stereotypical, like, so is waiting until everyone's waiting to eat breakfast. That's how you go hungry. You gotta look out for yourself.
Gotta survive.
It's not enough food in this
Lone wolf.
world. Yeah, it's like, I'm like, okay, whatever.
So they go to school, and this is where we learn that Freddy is just like is this master forger.
He's basically he's kind of like Bart Simpson. Type.
He's basically like a Bart Simpson character. He forges doctor's notes and like permission slips and stuff, but he's not like so good at it. He gives a guy a doctor's note that says he's suffering from endometriosis. So the principal asked when he was getting his hysterectomy, and like he's just like, oh, sorry, whoops. So like, you know, he's like, I think a Bart Simpson character is a very good way to put it.
Yeah. This is the first big character moment here is when the family's coming out of school. Billy's still being a dick, saying, I don't want to hang out with you guys.
Yeah.
And then some other guys show up and say, hey, Eugene, you totally blew the curve today. We told you to throw the test. And he's like, I like my grades. And then they start, pushing Freddy.
Well, he says, like, I have to work hard. You guys are rich. You're just going to inherit all your money. You don't have to work hard at all.
And they're all like white blonde boys.
Yeah, they're the stereotypical rich kids. And Freddy starts mouthing off them, saying, hey, you guys you can get tests off me, or maybe you can get the Idiot's Guide to Being Rich instead. And they start, pushing
No, it's the Idiot's Guide to Being an Idiot.
And
he's like, you've probably read it in detail since your dad wrote it.
Yeah, and then they push him up against the wall, and Mary says leave him alone. Then they, someone grabs her arm and pulls it behind her back. And then Billy comes in, just flies in and starts wailing on all of them, beating them all up.
He beats the shit out of them. He's like, no holds barred. He's just punching them in the face.
Yep.
Yeah, but he says, I don't like bullies. Like Captain America. I don't like bullies.
And then, of course, you have the teacher that comes in too late and just sees Billy beating everyone up, so they drag him into the principal's office with his dad. And the principal's like, did you know he was like kicked out of all these other schools? And that the social worker had to pull everything she had to get him into this school.
Just a little, I'm sure this is a nod. Her name is Principal Peach. That's gotta be like a 50s character, right?
Oh, definitely.
It's gotta be.
She's also like kind of bitchy. Like she's like, I'm gonna kick him out of the school.
Well, not just that. It's because the rich guy's dad comes in.
Yeah,
and
she's friends with him. She's friendly with him, saying, "Oh."
And he donates all his money apparently to the school.
Yeah. So he's like, "Oh, who's this boy beating up my children?" And she's like, "I'm sorry. I'm like, this won't happen again." And he's like, "Make sure that it doesn't."
I was so into this because I was like, is Shazam's first big enemy just like fucking rich nepotism? Because I'm here for this.
The dad of these bullies.
Yes, so everyone assumes that Billy started to fight because the rich kids have the sway over the school. He's just an orphan.
It's his first day.
Yeah.
And so this kid who's been kicked out of 5 other schools just shows up and starts punching people in the face. And the dad is like, no.
And then he goes.
This part I love so much. As they're walking outside, Billy's like, they started it, and his dad's like, it doesn't matter who started it, Billy. You shouldn't get into fights. And he goes, sometimes you have to. And then he walks over to the rich dad, and he threatens his sons to his face.
He says, "Your brats better stop bothering people, or I'm gonna shove those silver spoons right down their throats."
Yeah, I'm like, God damn, he is very ballsy.
And then the dad, in return, grabs Billy, puts out a fist, and says, "I'll beat the shit out of you, kid. You fucking touch my kids." And Billy's dad, adopted dad,
Billy's
like,
foster dad, grabs him, and he's like, "You let him go right now. How dare you threaten a kid?"
Yeah.
And the dad's like, "Keep your vagabonds in their place," and they have a big fight.
It's not a big fight. He kind of just throws Billy into his dad, and they drive off laughing.
So they're both on the ground, and Billy's foster dad, Mr. Vasquez, stands up and he's like, "You okay?" And he goes to offer Billy to help him up, but Billy gets up himself. He's like, "I could have handled it myself. Whatever.
I'm a lone wolf."
And then we cut to North Baghdad. There's Dr. Savannah's looking for magic for the Black Adam. And then they find a door. Dr. Savannah gets struck with lightning, and it like zaps into his right eye. So
now his eye has like a lightning bolt over like Harry Potter. Like
He's the boy who
yeah,
wins.
and he's like, I can see magic now.
And he has a very like dazed look on his face, like So he starts being able to see like magical symbols on the walls from this point on.
So then it cuts back to Billy's foster parents talking, and he's just like, Billy's putting on some kind of act when we met him. Obviously, he's got a little more of an edge. I tried to talk to him. He barely talked to me. He wouldn't eat his hamburger.
They start debating whether they should keep him because he might not be able to fit in at all at the rate he's going.
But the thing that I really, really like about that is he's like, you should have seen the look on his face when I tried to help him up. It's like no one had ever done that before. And like, I really like that moment because if you look back at the page, Billy looks like pissed off.
Yeah.
But there's still this like hesitation. And it's such a nice moment where it's like something so simple as just like, let me help you up. Billy like might have never had that before.
Yeah, and the foster mom's a lot more sympathetic to his cause because she says like both the mom and the dad know what it's like to be moved from foster home to foster home and how like it can get really bad.
And the dad also mentions like it's our word against the richest man in Philadelphia. What can we possibly do? We can't do anything.
And then it looks like we have Billy in the middle of the night. He starts like packing stuff up into his backpack, so it looks like he's leaving and
running away.
Yeah, Freddy gets up,
follows him.
Yeah. And it finds out Billy isn't just like running away. Instead, he goes to the zoo where the tiger is that was taken with the photo of his parents.
Tiger from the black and whiwhite photo.
Yeah, and he took the hamburger that the foster parents have given him, and he's feeding it to the tiger.
And now this is just my like Geoff Johns fanboy pedestal, but we got a full page spread of Billy sitting there talking to the tiger. And so in the Golden Age and Silver Age, the Marvel family had a bunch of sidekicks of talking tigers that wore suits and hung out with them. And it's very silly, and obviously we're not going to see that here, but like it's just Geoff Johns puts the nod where he's like, Billy has this emotional connection to a tiger, not because of some like bullshit comic book silliness, but because like he went here with his parents. It's one of his only memories of being with his parents. And the garbage cans at the zoo are the original statues that the Seven Sins were in the Golden Age, these like little weird monkey looking things. And I'm just like, it's just like those little things that even if you're not going to use them, it's cool to just like see them, and you're like, I get what you're going for. You're paying, your lip service to like the continuity, but you're modernizing.
Yeah, but you're not
like
bringing attention to it by being like, oh, I wonder what this statue. Why does it look like this?
Yeah. Like, would you guys like this book if he had a talking tiger that wore a suit and a hat and walked around? Probably not.
Don't judge me. I might.
They also had it in this Golden Age. There's a spin-off of Captain Marvel where Hoppy the Marvel Bunny, which is like a cartoon bunny who has like Captain Marvel powers, and Mary's bunny is called Hoppy.
Yeah. Did you see that the book that Billy keeps the photo of his parents in has a tiger in a suit?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
When you mentioned
like
that, I was like,
okay,
that's why. Because when I saw that, I'm like, all right, like sure.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Anything that's weird, I should just assume it has some comic lore behind it.
Yeah.
So the tiger roars at Freddy, and then Billy turns around, and he's like, what the hell are you doing here? And Freddy's asking, it's like, why are you talking to these tigers? When I like lifted your wallet from you, I saw that you had a photo of that tiger. And Billy's like, you lifted my wallet? My favorite thing is that earlier, like, they said, like, I think it was the principal that said that all the foster kids are good. I'm like, the parents gotta know that Freddy's kind of like a bad egg, too.
Yeah. Well, they're kind of oblivious for Billy until, like, they got in trouble with the principal's office. So they're pretty oblivious.
Yeah. Also, it could be, like, very subtle, like, as opposed to like getting into fights.
So this is when like they're talking back and forth a little. Billy's trying to get him to leave him alone, and Freddy's just like, I just wanted to thank you for standing up for me, and like, everyone in the family, we didn't have a chance to tell you before the principal grabbed you, but like it really meant a lot. Maybe they'll back off us for a while. He's like, what do you mean for a while? And he's like, well, they come after us like every day and beat the hell out of us like every day. There's only so much you could do. And Billy's like, I wish we could get back at him. He's like, well, I do know where they live. And they have this very mischievous look on them.
Yep. So cut to Baghdad, and Dr. Sivana finds like the mystical passageway into the place where the Black Adam presumably is. And so he says the secret word, Shazam, and lightning strikes. It blows everything up. It like kills all the people around him. And then suddenly you get like this big figure that's in the Shazam clothes, but like wrapped in black and gold. And he's asking, where's the wizard?
In a different language.
And he's asking him as he's killing all the guys, where's the wizard? Savannah's like, wait, I can understand you. And Black Adam's like, great, and then he kills the other guy saying he couldn't understand me, so now you talk to me.
Yeah. And this is like, you guys said, like, Savannah's not really like a bad guy. He's just standing here like smiling and talking to Black Adam while other guys are like burned alive by lightning.
Yeah.
He's not a good guy.
Yeah, where it's like this guy, Black Adam's the bad guy, where he's like, you don't know my language, you die.
Yeah.
Well, that's going on. Billy's trying to break into the rich guy's car.
But the alarm goes off. Since Freddy is wearing crutches, Billy pushes him into a rewrite brush and distracts the rich people.
He's like, I can outrun him, you can't. You wait here until it dies down.
Yep. And then he starts like, catch me if you can. And then they follow him. He slips past Santa and he goes into a subway.
It's just like, it's like a Salvation Army Santa. It's not a real Santa.
It could be Santa. I've watched so many movies. The one you don't think is Santa is always Santa, Ryan. Jesus.
Shazam probably met Santa. Santa's probably canon in the Shazam universe.
I'm
Santa
sure.
is definitely canon of the DC universe. So Billy slips into the subway, and then it gets electrified, sort of like the elevator from the very beginning, and he winds up inside of the ancient temple.
And what's cool is when it gets electrified, it switches to like an old-timey subway.
Yeah, it's really... I like the design a lot.
Yeah.
Yep. And even like the temple has like skeletons of dragons on it, and then there's like a statue of a centaur. It looks crazy, and there's like a talking mirror and talking suit of armor.
And Billy says, holy crap.
Yeah. And then he gets pulled, he goes into his chamber that has like the 7 deadly sins, like the statues that illuminate when he touches it to show like who each of them are.
He starts playing with it, and Shazam's like, that's not the wizard Shazam shows up saying, it's not a fucking toy.
Yeah.
And he tells him
And meanwhile, while Billy's like looking through everything, the wizard does sense that Black Adam has awoken.
Yeah, so the wizard Shazam is the guy who's the source of like all the Shazam powers.
Yeah.
And he himself is like a frail old man.
Yeah, and as soon as he sees Billy, he's like, my magic must be getting weaker if it brought me a child. And Billy starts arguing with him, and he's like, let's see if you're like worthy of the power. And so he asks, is this boy the mystical warrior I seek? Is this boy pure good?
And I love the wizards. All his dialogue is like, I'm the last of the council of wizards and the keeper of the rock eternity, the greatest magical fortress in all existence. And Billy's like, you're just a weird, creepy old man. If you come try to touch me, I'll knock all your teeth out.
And so the wizard peers into Billy's mind to see if he's pure good, and it shows like all these things of like him stealing a car, him running away from his family, him being really rude to that woman, him telling Darla we're not family. The wizard then goes, why is the magic wasting my time with these flawed people? And they start to argue about whether or not pure good exists.
Yeah, but he's like, I'm looking for a pure person. You're not a pure person. Billy's like, you think pure people exist? Is that why you've been...
Billy asks him, how long you been looking for him? I bet a long-ass time, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, good people get swallowed up. They get taken advantage of. They disappear. Trust me, it doesn't matter how good you try to be. Everyone else is going to drag you down with them. You're searching for something that doesn't really exist. That's why you've never found it. And then the wizard's like, but you tried to be good?
Yeah, do you have the embers of good inside you then? Is that it? Is that what should have been looking for centuries? This poor wizard's been on the wrong path a long time. So he asks, does the boy have the embers? And then it shows all of the good things he does, like feeding the tiger. He's trying to get a girl out of a terrible home, him beating up the bullies. And so the wizard goes, you do have potential, and I don't have a lot of time left, so say Shazam. I'll give you the power.
Yeah, he's like, Black Adam's awake, so I guess that's it.
Yeah,
I'm out of time,
this is
right?
the best I can do.
I wasted 1,000 years.
And this is just this small fix that Johns puts in, because it used to always be every single time he says it, he switches forms, which is a pretty bad weakness, because then you can't say your own damn name.
Yeah.
So here, Billy says Shazam, and nothing happens. He's like, what's that supposed to do? And he goes, you must say it with purpose, with belief, with good intentions. Mm-hmm. With thoughts of your parents and your family. Say it, and you will be transformed into your greatest potential. Say Shazam. So now he has to say it and like want to transform.
Yeah.
Otherwise, so now he can actually say his own name.
Billy Batson, and then he transforms.
What they like is also they changed it so now Billy is much more magical. Like before, he was pretty much just straight up Superman powers.
Yeah.
But here he has like electricity flowing through him constantly.
Yeah, they also play up the electrical powers. So Billy
it's
says,
cool. It's like I found this like an interesting take on the Superman thing because he can't even go near electrical stuff without it exploding because he's living lightning.
Yeah. I really like that too because there's like we always talk about how like boring it is when you give everyone super strength and the ability to fly and super durability, and it's like he has all these powers too, but it also like it really pushes on the electrical stuff. Like when he's just walking around, you'll see like lights go out or like lightning bouncing.
Yeah,
off of him.
I really liked that.
Yeah, so then he says Shazam, he turns into, Shazam. If you've seen any trailers, you know what his design is. This is also Gary Frank's the one who added the white hood. That was he didn't have that before. He just had like a big yellow cape.
I feel like
so
that I like the white hood too. It makes it seem a little more like esoteric and mystical rather than just like a cape.
More like a sorcerer, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Which, speaking of, like, apparently he can cast spells too, which I was like, he's got to be very strong.
So, by the way, like, Shazam can kick Superman's ass, like, canonically wise.
Really?
Yeah, well, Superman's weak to magic.
Yeah, he's weak to magic. I knew that.
Man, we got to do Kingdom Come one of these days.
I was thinking though whether if Superman fought Billy, who would come out on top, and then I'm like, should Superman fight a 15-year-old though?
They always fucking cheat. They always have Superman win these fights, but it makes more fucking sense for Shazam to win.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So he gets his powers and he's just like smashing stuff, and he's like, "Stop!" The wizard's like, "Stop! Stop wasting your powers."
Yeah, don't waste your powers.
And then he's like, "You must learn. Learn from them. Watch over them. Your family, as I should have." And he's like, "Do you know where my parents are?" And he's like, "Family is what it can be, not what it should be. That is your secret spell, your ultimate power." Billy's like, "That sounds like a bunch of bullshit."
And also he's like, "By the way, a guy's trying to kill you." And Billy's like, wait, what?
He's trying to release the 7 deadly sins, and he's gonna try and kill you.
And he's like, I don't want somebody trying to me after. He's like, too late, yes, Shazam. And then the wizard comes up with
Obi-Wan Kenobi's away. See you later.
Yeah, he collapses and then he teleports Billy back, and Billy appears in front of Freddy in Shazam form. And he's like, "It really happened!" And then Freddy's trying to run away, and he grabs him and just picks him. It's like, "Look at me, it's me, Billy!" And he looks into his eyes, and he's like, "No way." So you get like this great dialogue of them just trying to like reason out what's happening. It's like, "You met a wizard, a grumpy one. And he made you old? I'm not sure how old." And like Billy picks up the car, like the car that
the one
he
he
was
tried
gonna.
to jack before.
Yep.
The rich guy's car.
And then like the alarm's going off, and so he just slams it into the ground, destroys it. So when the guy comes out, like he starts crying in front of his car, and Billy and Freddy are like, Billy picks up Freddy and runs away with him. And then this is where we get like him like zapping accidentally like a bunch of Christmas lights and blowing them up.
Yeah, because they decide they're gonna find some normal clothes for him and then maybe buy beer. Because like now he's a grown up.
Yeah, he's an adult.
But then they run into a woman getting mugged, and Billy just fucking like slaps him, and the guy flies into a car.
Flies through a car window, and he's like, I didn't mean to hit him so hard.
But the guy says "ow," so he's not dead.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
later, Freddy's like, "He'll be okay." And I'm like, "No, he won't." Like, he went through a car window like so fast.
This is more like a comical tone. So
Yeah, but the thing that I really love, I love this panel so much.
I laughed out loud actually.
Yeah, so he hits the guy, and then the woman goes, "Oh my God, who are you?" And he's like, "I'm just some guy, an adult."
And then she's like, "How can I ever thank you?" Well, and then you have Freddy's face on the side. "I am a little short on cash," and she's like,
and she gives him $20.
She like squints. She's like, "Oh, okay." Like she's being robbed by this guy.
And he walks away looking at this 20 like it's the best thing he's ever seen. And I'm like, I actually laughed when I saw this page.
Yeah, and then with Freddy, it's like, "She gave me $20," and Freddy's like, "This is insane. This is the best." And he says, "We're gonna be rich." And Shazam does like is that like the Shazam pose?
I mean, it's like a superhero, like almost going down.
It's like a
bodybuilder
bodybuilder type of pose that flex.
Yeah.
We come back to Black Adam for a bit. As Dr. Savannah explains to him, like, this is the modern world. Like, magic's gone pretty much. Like, the old wizard.
This is what we call a city. And he's like, "I know what a city is."
You fucking, I could show you, old man. Don't fucking test me.
Yeah, he jumps down with the old man. A car crashes into him, but he's like unfazed. And then Black Adam's like, "This city's strange." And he says,
"Oh, I love this scene so much."
It's such an interesting scene. He sees people protesting because they want like their pension, because I guess they were laid off before Christmas.
Yeah, we should explain though. The wizard basically got rid of all the magic in the world just because he didn't want Black Adam to get it.
Yeah.
So that's why the modern world has no magic in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Dr. Savannah's like, they're protesting, they're angry. The man they work for has stolen their livelihood. And he's like, The Black Adam says, "Then the world has not changed as much as you believe, Savannah. Pharaohs still live off slaves. Where is this man?" He says, "I would assume up there." And Black Adam jumps up to the top building.
Yeah, and then he breaks the window while this guy's arguing with the cops about that he wants them off the sidewalk, and they're like, "You don't own the sidewalk."
But so this rich guy just arguing with the cops, and his Black Adam comes in, he grabs the guy, just says, "Go by Pharaoh," and throws him off the building to his death.
I love that too. And he like splatters on the ground, and people start like screaming and running away, and Black Adam comes down, and in his language, he's like, "Slaves, you are free." And they're just fleeing in terror.
And then he's, I guess this is one of Black Adam's powers. He's like, "Their language, teach it to me, Savannah." And he grabs Savannah's head.
Yeah,
and now he
dome.
speaks English.
Yeah. That's magic.
So then he goes down to where he finds the Shazam Wizard's lair.
Underground.
He's also shocked, by the way, that the people aren't worshiping him. They're like,
Yeah.
he's like, why are they fleeing in fear? I saved them.
And this is where we learned that Savannah's power, Savannah using his power to see magic, also ages him, which eventually makes him look like the old Dr. Savannah, which is like a frail old man. So he starts out looking like Lex Luthor, but looks more and more frail as the story goes on.
Yeah, basically, Black Adam just reveals that you're utilizing magic, but your body is not enhanced to channel it. So you're basically like you're using powers above your means, and it's killing you.
Yep, and then Black Adam, he opens up a door to the Rock of Eternity, the place where the wizard is, but he can't get in. And then he sees that the wizard's collapse. He says his light is dim, his body is still. So he must have given his power to a new champion. So he has to go bash that champion.
Yeah, he has to kill him and take his champion spot.
Yeah, and then we come back to just Freddy holding up this jacket that costs $10 to Billy, who's staring outside the store window in on him. And he's giving him a thumbs up. He's like, yeah, good jacket. And then it's super tight on him because Shazam's really ripped.
Yeah.
We have $10 left. What do we do? Food.
While this is going on, then Black Adam goes and he picks up this fat, he goes into this fat guy's house, and it's revealed that the
7 deadly sins all were disguised as regular people, and they got the memories wiped by the wizard.
Yeah.
So this fat guy who's ordering a bunch of pizzas.
It's like that. It's like that classic kind of comical, really over the top kind of eye rolly thing of this guy needs 5 pizzas.
Yeah, and there's all this food on the floor.
He won't even answer the door. He's like, yeah, keys are under the door. Just let yourself in.
But they don't really keep this trend going because later on when they meet Pride, it's just some lady that works at a construction site.
Yeah, and then immediately they pull her out and it's Pride.
Yeah.
They have the more monstrous colored forms that Black Adam pulls out of them.
Yeah, so the fact that the sloth looks like a fat guy with a beard, but when he pulls out the demonic form, it looks kind of like the Shadow King from Legion TV show.
Yeah.
Or a boomer from Left 4 Dead.
Yeah, that's not a good example.
Precisely.
Or he looks like Sloth from Full Metal Alchemist.
Or he looks like Sloth from this comic. So he's the 7 deadly sins is why should I help you? I'm your sworn enemy. And he's well, Black Adam's you know what I want to do? I want to destroy the world so I can rebuild it and make it better because it's still bad. And so Sloth's cool, okay, I'm down with that.
And then it cuts back to Billy and Freddy eating at McDonald's or whatever, and Billy has eaten all the fries because when he's big, he's now bigger, so he's hungrier, and he's I'm sorry, I can't help it.
Yeah.
So they wanted to rob an ATM using his Shazam powers to electrocute the ATM.
They don't want to.
Well,
do.
no. First, he wants him to say a magic word for the ATM to give him money, and then because he's electric, he just zaps the ATM and starts shooting out money crazy. And then while this is going on, people that in masks are robbing the bank.
It's Hotline Miami.
Wait, they're oh, stop them robbing the bank, and Shazam is no, we're not. And they're oh, I mean those guys over there robbing the bank. What a coincidence! They're also robbing the bank.
I really, this is where I was my typical oh, what the fuck is wrong with this
but
city?
They mentioned
that's why I love Geoff Johns for this because I'm he keeps running into people who are mugging other people or shooting up people or robbing banks, and I'm what kind of world is this? This is happening so often that you just stumble upon it. But then it's turned out that one of Shazam's powers is he just goes where there's need accidentally.
He senses where there's need and will naturally go towards people in need of help.
Yeah.
So he naturally just keeps running into all these robberies. And I'm that's cool. That's
it's
cool power.
I like that there was that explanation too because I had the same experience with Phil where I'm this is a little too much violence for me to be this is a nice world or
yeah, this is Philadelphia.
Because it's every page there's the bank robbery, then they go to buy beer and this guy's robbing the cash register. Then they go outside, they're let's jack that car, and they're wait, that guy's jacking the car.
Yeah, and all these guys have guns too. Jacking the car just turns around with the gun.
This is also when Billy finds out he's bulletproof because they shoot him and it doesn't hurt.
Geoff Johns is arguing here that gun control laws in cities don't work. Look at this. Look at Philadelphia, the gun-ridden city it is.
So they pass by a mirror, and this is the the last character they have to introduce is Francesca. She's the mirror lady who she's telling him it's Black Adam knows that you're the champion is gonna come kill you in case you were having too much fun.
And when we say mirror lady, she's the mirror extrudes Al into the form of a woman, the surface of the mirror, and then breaks eventually when she stops talking to him.
Yeah.
And then he learns he can fly, Then him and Freddy get into an argument about like, Freddy's like, oh, we've been gone like all night basically. We should go back home because we have school tomorrow. And he goes, no, you have school. I'm an adult now. I'm going to stay like this
I'm
forever.
an adult.
Well, he says like, but you said you could change back. He's like, why would I ever want to?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to be a kid again, Freddy, ever. And he's like, well, what am I supposed to do? That's up to you. If you want to go back, go back. And this is when Freddy's like, I thought we were in this together. Like, I thought I was your sidekick. And he's like, you can do whatever you want, but I'm an adult. Why would I want to go back to being like a shitty orphan that nobody cares about?
Freddy's like, now you're starting to sound like an adult.
You're a condescending tool. And he walks away. And that's when Billy realizes, wait, Freddy? Because he's like, I'm the guy that always treated me like shit.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he tries to find him, but instead Black Adam appears with electricity radiating from him.
He looks literally like Shazam, but with black and gold instead of...
Yeah,
like,
that's what Billy says. Your costume is like mine, but black. Man, that's way cooler.
One thing that sucks about fucking like the Marvel formula is they always have the dark mirror version of the main character. By the end they always fight someone who has the exact same powers.
Yeah.
But Black Adam was originally cool because he was one of the few like dark mirror versions of the hero.
And also, it makes sense because they have like the same origin. They're getting their powers from the same thing. It's not like when you have lots of flashes that happen to get hit by lightning in the same place. Like this actually makes sense.
Wait, is that
why
Professor
it is
Zoom's
like
origin too? Did he get hit by lightning and chemicals?
Well, he did that on purpose because he was such a big Flash fan, you know.
But like I find it lame that the Marvel the superhero movies have made this cliche. But back then it used to be cool to have. Whoa, it's Black Adam. He's like Shazam but black.
And I think Black Adam's one of the examples that still holds up like super well because like it narratively really works in this kind of world.
And it makes a good contrast for Billy because Billy's like the more naive, like optimistic.
Yeah, I was gonna say
one.
this is actually the really good contrast between them because usually like a guy having like an Iron Man versus another guy in an Iron Man suit isn't that interesting. But what's cool here is Billy's like a young kid that was just given his powers, whereas this guy's like a millennia old guy used to these powers. So there's a clear power disparity because they start to fight and like Billy can't fight Black Adam. Black Adam just like backhands him through a tree and then like a store.
And while they're just like fighting, you get some cuts of Savannah just collecting the rest of the Seven Sins.
Yeah,
literally just Pride, and then the rest are like all together.
And this is the only reason why Billy changed back into Billy because when he changes to Billy, Black Adam can't tell it's him when he runs to the crowd.
He's running bloodied, like, and he just turns into Billy so that he's like, I can run away now.
Yeah, and Black Adam's main motivation is he wants to kill Billy so that all of the Wizard's power is his and his alone.
Yeah, but he does make connection that this little kid that running in front of him is Shazam. So he's like, where are you? Well, Shazam's right in front of him.
And then Black Adam starts looking for him by throwing cars up into the air and into buildings, just like lifting them.
This is my always complaint of every comic I've ever read, where I'm like, why the fuck didn't Superman show up for this? Like, he's destroying Philadelphia, just like he's not just like subtly doing it. He's going down major streets, just like killing everyone.
Well, he's doing whatever was happening in Justice League that month, right? Fighting Despero or whatever.
No, he was bringing Lois. He was going to see Lois's parents, and then they were having a fake wedding.
Darryl, that's
subscribe to our
backers
Patreon if you want to know what we're talking about.
Also, it really wouldn't matter if Superman showed up because literally Black Adam's so strong that they literally had an event called World War III, which is the whole entire world, all the superheroes in the world versus Black Adam. Black Adam.
For what it's worth, Superman was depowered during that.
Oh, yeah, you're right. But like
God.
Supergirl, like all the other ones were there, and like none of them.
Well, like
none
we
of them
said,
really,
they're weak to magic.
Yeah, none of them like even Black. None of the superheroes even make a difference to Black Adam.
Still, they could try.
Flash?
Black Adam has super speed too. They should even show it as part of Billy's powers as well.
Wait, super speed like Flash level though? Is
Like,
everyone
well, not like Flash level, but I guess Flash always breaks the fucking thing if you think about it too much. Who can beat the Flash? But...
I liked reading this story just as like an isolated story, not trying to think
when
about
I didn't think of it as
there's-
DC, I'm like, this is cool.
Yeah, that there's a whole universe around it. Instead, you just look at it like, oh, it's a story about a boy that gets magic powers, and now there's this guy with magic powers.
Yeah. So meanwhile, the rich guy is going to the Vasquez's house, and he's like, "Your kid smashed my car," and they're like, "He's a kid, he didn't." And he's like, he brought the police. He's threatening them, and we see that like this is when Black Adam's smashing everything, and Freddy's talking to the other orphans.
But he's talking to the tiger, and Freddy's talking to her.
Yeah, Freddy's talking to the other orphans, and he's like, if that guy in black's looking for Shazam, and they're like, who's Shazam? And he's like, well, Billy's Shazam. And they're like, we don't. This is all new information. So he just tells all the other orphans that, you know, that's who Billy is. He has like some pictures and videos and stuff that have gone, you know, that like are on the news, and all the kids find Billy talking to the tiger.
Yep.
At the zoo.
Yeah, and he's like, "What are you doing here? Why'd you bring the Goonies?" And Darla's like, "What are the Goonies?"
And Daryl's like, "Oh, I'm trying to see Shazam. We're so excited." And Billy's like, "You fucking told him, Freddy? What the fuck?"
Yeah, and he's like, "I can't be Shazam anymore. Like, I can't fight this big boy."
Yeah, the wizard messed up. He shouldn't have given the powers to me. I can't do this.
Yep.
The inversion of this trope that I like a lot is, Black Adam's using like the standard trope of I'll keep killing people until you show your face, and Billy has no intention of going until the kids are like, but you're not just a stupid kid, like you're a hero, you have to do it. And like I like that
it's actually, what's interesting is that Billy said, "I'm only a kid, so I can't do it," and Darla responds, "But you're not a stupid kid," as in like he knows the right thing to do.
Yeah, and I like that, like, he wasn't just, like, licking his wounds until he's ready to fight him. Like, he was like, nope, I'm not a superhero.
Yeah, I'm out of here.
His quest here is like, let's go back to the castle, give the powers to someone else.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, I guess. And we see the 7 deadly sins here. They're like...
They look like some deadly sins. Like
They look like comic book monsters.
Yeah, they do look like comic book monsters.
So Billy goes into the subway, and like from a person's iPad, that's when Francesca, the mirror lady, starts talking to them again. And she explains the like story of what happened to him.
To Black Adam. Yeah, and she says like Black Adam was a slave.
There was a boy that had been like his mother and father were taken from him, and then he was put into the mines and he was forced to work, but then his uncle came to save him.
And like they're laying it on that like he has a similar origin than you. There was this orphan slave boy, like
And then they were teleported.
And the uncle came to save him, and they got teleported, and the uncle got hurt in the fight, and the magic that the boy takes channels through the uncle, and they both, because they're family, the magic can pass through them.
Well, the they give the power to the Shazam and all the wizards who existed back then. They give the power to the boy, and the boy, since he loves his uncle, he shares his power of his uncle.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Billy's like, "Oh, that boy must be Black Adam. I gotta go talk to Black Adam, saying because he's a kid too deep down."
This is great.
And he was like a foster kid. His parents were taken from him, and that he knows the ills of society, so he can converse with them.
Yeah, he's like, I'll just go talk to him, and then as he's running, these like glass. Is Francesca saying, like, Billy, wait, don't, you gotta listen to me. I didn't tell you the story.
So he thinks that Black Adam is that kid, and he's still a kid deep down, basically.
Yeah, he sees, I know why you're lashing out to hurt other people. You want to hurt them before they can hurt you. I know why you don't want to trust anyone, because you've always been taking advantage for it, and I know why you're angry. And then it's because you're scared, and then he grabs him, like, by his mouth and goes, "You think I'm scared? You don't know anything."
Black Adam grabs him, and Black Adam reveals a true origin story, which is after the nephew shares power of his uncle, the uncle fucking killed the nephew because the nephew didn't want to kill all the people that enslaved them. He said, I don't want to bring a cycle.
Let's bring peace with this power. And the uncle's like, no, we need vengeance because they killed my wife. They killed my wife
and children.
Yeah, and they killed your parents. And
which I was like, I can kind of, I can see
I'm
this
like,
guy's point.
And
like, if someone kills your
says,
children, you're not going to be like, let's make peace. The fighting's over. It's like you're going to like succumb to that hatred.
They even imply like what they did to my dear Sharuda is unspeakable. So it's like they at least torture. Like it wasn't.
Yeah.
Like
I think this twist is expertly handled.
And we talk about the contrast between Black Adam and Shazam. And it's like when you're a kid, you want to have Superman be like the goal is Superman, where he's idealistic and like what you want to see him as a kid, like Billy is like you want superpowers to be used for like a superhero purposes, like a little child does. But Black Adam is like the dark, gritty version where he's been made jaded and cynical from a harsh life.
It's if he gets superpowers, he's gonna go kill people that he believes are guilty of sins.
But it shows like the difference between the idealistic youth that like Superman represents versus like something like Man of Steel, which is more like a realistic. Black Adam is kind of like the more Man of Steel kind of hero, where it's more like how the world changes you over time.
Yeah,
and this gets like I guess it's like a kind of like a fight scene thing where the other kids go to help Billy because he's being choked by Black Adam. They drive a car into him, and he's like, "What?" And he's like, "I'm just gonna kill these kids because you care about them."
Yeah, now share the power of me, motherfucker, or else I kill these kids.
And the 7 sins are running around.
This is when Billy like realized the 7 sins almost do like
nothing.
They have a weird thing because they go and they take the rich dad, and then they're like, let's turn him into a giant demon with like a pentagram on his chest.
They said they want to have a main host, and they used the rich guy because the rich guy's so evil. He's got to be.
They literally are like flying around and like, who's the most evil person in the city? Oh, him,
rich man, the richest person in the city.
and so Black Adam's
I
like,
mean,
channel.
are they wrong though?
And so Black Adam's like, channel your power to me, or else like kill these guys. And Billy's like, wait, I can do that? And Black Adam's like, yeah, like my fucking nephew to me. You channel your power to your family. And Billy's like, oh yeah, and he channels it to.
That's when Billy realizes he recalls the wizard's words about family is not.
He doesn't recall. Francesca shows up and she repeats them to him.
Oh, okay, yeah. Family is who it can be, not who it should be, right?
Yeah, family is what it can be, not what it should be. And he goes, oh, that's the secret.
So he Shazams the rest of his foster family and turns them into big boys and girls.
Okay, so when this happened, first of all, I was shocked. Second, I was like, I forget how much stuff you tell me that I just purge out of my memory or I suppress into the back of my mind, because you have told me before that little boy turns into a big family of people as the new Shazam, and I forgot about it until I saw his brothers and sisters turn into super beings, and I was like, this is the new Shazam. It's not just one little boy, big boy.
See, I know from doing the narration for the YouTube thing that both Freddy and Mary got Shazam forms. So when I saw this, I'm like, this makes a lot of sense.
And to me, this is the core concept of Shazam that I think makes him such a great character, because he gets superpowers like every other people. Some guy comes and gives him a bunch of superpowers, and he is like one of the only heroes in comics that willingly chooses to share his power with other people. Where because every time he shares his power, he gets a little weaker, but he still opts to create himself a whole family, and he takes his handicapped friend and his sister and all these different people, and he chooses to let them be superheroes too.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a really
it's very
powerful
unique.
thing.
In retrospect, when we read some DC events in the past, these guys were all sitting on the couch together, weren't
It was
they?
Flashpoint. Yeah.
They're Captain
So
Thunder.
what's interesting about that is, so it was always Mary, Freddy, and Billy. And in Flashpoint, Geoff Johns reimagined them as, what if it was 5 kids? It was like a Captain Planet thing. And then when he rebooted Shazam right after that, he was like, I'm going to just keep that idea.
Okay, because when I saw this, I was like, this is very familiar.
I like the
Yes,
idea,
yeah.
where you stumble upon something you really enjoy, and you're like, this should be Shazam.
And that conceit here, that character moment of Billy choosing to share his power is really, really framed well here, because he's like, look, I gave everyone their power, and Black Adam keeps saying, no, it's my power. It should be only mine. And Billy's like, no, I'm sharing it. It's a thing.
I also like plot wise, it's a really clever way, because the whole time I'm wondering how the fuck can Billy franchise Black Adam, because Black Adam's so much experience, but now he numbers them 7-1. They all just gang up on Black Adam.
They pile on him, and they all have little extra powers. Eugene, since he's a nerd, can control electronics, and Darla, because she's hyper, I guess, can be really
She's super fast, yeah.
And I'm like, oh, so they're all different versions of what if I had lightning powers?
Yeah.
And it's cool too, because it really plays on the whole what is family thing, which just seems to be the theme of the book, is can they be family even though they're not related by blood? It's well, we have a bond and we can share the magic through that.
Yep. Then we have the big super evil satanic rich man walking around as a demon shooting fire at stuff. So the Shazam family decides to fight him. Well, Billy goes to fight Black Adam himself.
Yes.
And there's a whole bunch of superhero things of Mary slapping the...
Yeah, it's all just action.
Well, there is some moments of they go and they stop and save a bunch of people, and we get montages of them being heroic stuff, like you said.
Yeah, and talking to all the people.
And then the best scene where they're at the zoo and Tony the Tiger tries to help Billy, and he jumps on Black Adam's back and he's like, fuck off. And then he's like, wait.
Yeah, Billy flashbacks to him saying, you're the closest thing to family I got. His eyes showed of lightning. And then
he turns him into Big Tiger.
Yeah.
And then I was thinking how cool it would be if you could do that to your pets.
Well, and Black Adam, but Black Adam says you have no knowledge of your magic. You've enchanted your animal avatar incorrectly. And I like that, oh yeah, animal avatars and familiars and stuff is a real thing in magic. Well, as real as anything in magic is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's just giving the power away so much that it's just he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. And they're all losing
all
their
power
power.
starts fading. Everyone's power starts fading from them as they're losing. Mary starts losing against the big demon guy. All the people trying to rescue the civilians start losing their power, and now Billy's losing his power against Black Adam.
Yeah, so Billy Shazam's back into a regular boy, and he's like, hey, you're just you're the tyrant that killed your parents. You're a big
Yeah,
bully.
I'm a kid. Go ahead. Kill a kid, and then you'll just be the biggest asshole in the world, just like the people you hate.
Tell
so
yourself
whatever.
tell yourself you're still a hero after you kill a kid.
So he says, let's make it a fair fight. You Shazam back into a little... or a man. He's a man.
Little boy. You go back.
You Shazam into a little man, and then we'll just fight mano a mano, as if that's like more fair. So he does Shazam down, and then suddenly he starts like coughing, and he looks at himself like in a puddle, and he's like, "What? Like, when did I get like so old? It's been centuries." And he starts rapidly aging so fast.
He reveals. Billy points out that you haven't changed back since the moment you murdered your nephew, have you? And he's like seeing like an image of his nephew in a puddle, and he's like, that was centuries ago, and that's when he starts to rapidly age. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he turns into dust. And then Billy Shazams himself, and then...
Something sins are like, oh, Black Adam's let's get the fuck out of here. And they all leave the rich guy's body and fuck off.
Yeah, he depowers from the demon as like the seven sins leave, and he just becomes a naked man now.
Everyone laughs at him.
Yeah.
And Shazam shows up, and everyone's like, look what he did to the school. And Shazam is like, oops, sorry.
Well, no, they say, look, it's the man who stopped the bank robbery and the liquor store holdup. He made the monsters go away. But look, he did break the school. And he's like, oh, school's canceled.
Yeah,
No
everyone's
kids
like, yay.
He doesn't say so smug. He says, I guess school's canceled. And everyone's like, yay.
Yeah, and then it's Christmas, and Freddy asks Billy, it's like, so you're going to stick around so like everyone's opening their presents and stuff. And he's like, where else am I going to go? And then we're left with the final teaser of Dr. Savannah, all like wrinkly and old and shriveled. He finds the doorway into the Rock of Eternity.
He's still at the doorway trying to get in there because now Black Adam's gone. So he's like, I need to get into this doorway, please. Like,
magic. Yeah, he's like, I want magic, please. Please, someone give me magic. Black Adam clearly failed him in that regard. Yeah. And a little caterpillar says that he's called Mr. Mind, and they will be the best of friends, which I'm like, this is probably another, like...
Yes, when I saw this, I texted Ryan saying, I can't believe they brought back Mr. Mind. It's fucking... talking caterpillar.
Mr. Mind, okay, listen, don't shit on Mr. Mind.
I know.
The multiverse,
no, I know.
Okay?
Sly's like, this is great. That's the way I was reading him saying that.
Yes.
Oh, Mr. Mind,
the talking caterpillar.
Yeah,
yes!
instead of being a fun friend now, though, he is like a mind worm that infects people's brains and
forces them to kill their loved ones while they can't do anything but cry as they watch.
That's what he does. That's a thing. It's awesome. So that was Shazam, and like I haven't seen the movie yet. I think I'm going this weekend, but
is it out?
It just came out.
Yeah, it came out like alongside Captain Marvel, which is the funniest thing.
Yeah, it came out alongside Captain Marvel in Canada, I think. I think it's April 5th. It comes out in America.
So it looks like it's like a direct adaptation of this, except I don't think Black Adam's in it. But nobody tell me. But whatever.
I bet he's in it.
Black Adam was cast as The Rock, by the way, back when that was first announced.
But that was like years ago.
Yeah, who knows that's still true, but
that's such
true.
a good pick.
It is, right?
Yeah.
So nobody tell me, but what'd you guys think? Would you read more of Geoff Johns' Shazam? Phil?
Yeah, I enjoyed this a lot.
Yeah. Darryl?
So I'd read more. I have a couple caveats for this book. The first thing I'm going to say is I was completely wrong. I did not think I would like Shazam. I thought Little Boy into Big Boy is a dumb concept.
Same.
And as I was reading this, I'm like, this is how it works. This is why people are excited about this idea. I think my problem is I was too much thinking of Big Boy as Superman rather than whenever Billy turns into Shazam, he turns into just a big version of himself. So he's still a kid at heart, which makes the character a lot more endearing and appealing than just like, I turned into a superhero, now I'm gonna go do superhero things. And say it's like,
well, it's like the Captain Marvel literally became a different person. It wasn't like him. It was like he would switch places, whereas this, it's just him still.
For the record, it was like a different person until like the 80s when they were like, what if it's with Billy's personality? And everyone was like, yeah, that makes way more sense. Do that. That's good.
Yeah, okay. That's what I was kind of like thinking, and I figured it.
And they do some really interesting stuff with that.
Yeah, one thing I love, Guy Gardner and Billy were on the same team once, and Billy had to quit the team because Guy Gardner kept making fun of him. Billy couldn't handle it.
He kept calling him white bread, and he said, "You're so sweet. You're giving me diabetes, you fucking loser." Which
wow.
is awesome.
And
one thing, Billy, I really like Billy on teams because, like, in Johns' JSA, Billy is like really flirty with the like teenage girl on the team, and the rest of the team is like, that's really weird because they don't know he's a little boy.
Oh.
And they're like, what is
God,
wrong with
like,
you?
Pedophile.
Yeah, no, they're like, this isn't good. Why is this like this? And then
Yeah.
he's like, no, I'm a little kid. And they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So that was my first thing. Is I really enjoyed this way more than I thought I was going to, and I think this is great. And it's like a recommended read for anyone that's possibly interesting. There's like 2 points in the story where I was like, oh, I just wish this was a little bit different. First thing is I wish there weren't the seven sins, because I felt like they just took up
I agree that they take away
unneeded
from it.
space, and the
they took
whole
them out.
story, you're just like Black Adam and the Billy stuff, like the parallels are really interesting, and then you have like a fat guy just being fat,
Yeah.
and being a sloth.
I think this is something Geoff Johns does in his runs a lot too. He sets up for later story arcs and also potentially even arcs for other writers. Like Ryan said, one of his favorite reboots was like for like a character from the Green Lantern 70s about a guy who makes like tiny miniature versions of people or something like that. What was it, Ryan?
What are you talking about?
You said there's like a villain. You said it's your favorite reboot of any villain ever. It's like a one panel.
He makes miniature versions of himself.
Oh, no. Okay. That's the whole thing with Evil Star. It's a really cool idea. It's all these like gremlins, and I don't know. I can't get into that right now.
It's only shows up for one panel in Geoff Johns' Green Lantern run. But Geoff Johns never does anything with the idea. But like he sets it up for other writers to do something with that character if they wanted to, basically. Like, he does that a lot. So I feel like that's what he's doing here.
That's why I realized it's like because I was thinking like just it's a comic that it has to continue on after this. It's like naturally that's why they're there, is to be like, hey, here's what we're like, here's our designs, and then we fly away at the end so you can use this in any way you want. But like it's a standalone story just between Billy and Black Adam. It's so much more interesting, and then you have like these distractions on the side.
And one thing too, a lot of fans, like, it was Geoff Johns kept saying like, I'm writing a Shazam book really soon, and just like editorial, there were all these like other relaunches and stuff going on, and he like has a big job at Warner Brothers now. He's like a chief creative officer, so like he was supposed to pick up right away, and it just kept not happening. He only just launched it a couple months ago, and this book is from what, like 2013 or something like that, 2014 maybe.
That's recent.
Actually, no, probably earlier, but
And
whatever. That's not
they're
important.
probably gonna let Geoff Johns back onto the book just because the movie's coming out too. By the way.
Yeah, so like he was supposed to, I'm pretty sure this was originally going to kick into an ongoing, and it just didn't happen yet. So like I'm sure that now that he has the book again, we're going to start seeing some of these ideas come into play. Who knows? I hope so, because it's great.
So the other thing is like I wish the seven sins weren't there, and it will also help with the Black Adam fight itself, because I like the idea that Billy can't beat him himself, so he needed the rest of the family to help fight him. Because it's weird because they fight him for a little bit, then they all fly away to fight the rich man.
Yeah.
It's because if his powers getting divided, they still shouldn't be able to beat him, really.
Yeah, they probably wouldn't be able to.
But I still like the idea of like five people being able to, like five inexperienced people possibly, and even then, like I'm still cool with it turning into that they can't beat him even after that, and then he has to.
Yeah, but they don't try enough, really.
And also, like, if just because his strength's divided doesn't mean there's not advantages to like flanking people and stuff.
Yeah,
but imagine like five 5-year-olds trying to beat your ass. It's like
They would kick the shit out of
Well,
me.
they all have the same powers as you. It's like 5-year-olds with guns but are untrained, I guess.
no, they're not, because they're getting they're like, don't they each have like a fifth of his strength? Because there's
I don't know. I don't
they
think it's
split it.
even. I don't think it's. Phil, it's magic.
I don't know, it's magic.
You're not gonna explain shit.
So I'm cool with it. Like, even though they all didn't fight together, it was just Billy at the very end just fighting him. The fact that he had to be like power down and like un-Shazam, and then that's how he gets him, is that he turns into a man and then he ages really fast. But it didn't even establish that while you're Shazam, time passes for your regular body too. So that when you un-Shazam, like you get old. Like it could have just been like a one sentence seed in somewhere, like maybe to the wizard, where he's like, make sure not to be Shazammed all the time because your regular body will age as well.
Yeah, and that could have played more into the drama of like, I'm gonna stay like this forever. I don't care if I age because I don't want to be Billy anymore.
Yeah,
But
I think the concept makes enough sense when you see it that you can question it after, but I think when you see it, you're like, oh yeah, he's probably really old by now. Like,
yeah, it's not like I'm like, that makes no sense.
yeah.
at all,
I it like had such a natural setup that Johns didn't go for.
That's fair.
But other than that, like I really, really enjoyed the story.
Cool. Sly, you liked it?
Yes.
I know you did.
My least favorite part was that it's supposed to be like Egypt with pharaohs, but they found the ruins in North Baghdad, which is Mesopotamia. So it's like, what is this? You know?
It probably is Mesopotamia. It's made up country. It doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah. Okay, so I hope you guys liked what might be the last Captain Marvel episode. Probably
It's not. It's not. We're gonna be probably doing some other stuff.
But either way, I do want to mention, we mentioned the Patreon earlier. It's a new month, so there's a new Patreon bonus. We talked about some Lois Lane stuff, which was a recommendation from one of our backers. And I would also like to just give a sneak peek at next episode, because if you're a patron, we take recommendations on things we want to do, and we are doing a patron recommendation, and we will be covering the first volume of an indie book called Kaiju Max that I highly recommend. Everyone should read it. And if you have a book you want us to cover, go to patreon.com/flyingmachine and give us money, and then we'll listen to you.
That's the way the world works.
We're just like Mr. Breyer here. We're just like the evil rich guy.
Yeah.
Well, we're the lobbying industry. No, our patrons are the lobbying industry. We're the government.
Yes. You can also get in touch with us in our Discord and our Facebook group, Oops, I Talk Divisive Issues. And you could email us at divisiveissues@gmail.com, or follow us on Twitter @divisiveissues. And also check out the rest of the network. I want to mention the Flying Machine content channel, the flagship show, because one of our old hosts from when we first joined the network, who no longer has a podcast, JB, he has a new album out, and he sat down with Malcolm and talked about his writing process and gave some previews to songs, and it was a really, really great episode. I really recommend it. So check that out and all the other shows at flyingmachine.network. You guys have anything to... Oh, Sly, do you want to plug the new episode of DM It All?
Oh yeah, DM It All is back after a brief hiatus.
Wow.
Where we just covered the original edition of D&D, the very first one. If you want to find out how different D&D concepts like levels and classes all came into fruition, go listen to that episode.
And that's youtube.com/DMItAll now, right? Got a fancy link?
Finally, we got our own URL.
We got it, guys.
We did it.
So, thank you guys for listening to Divisive Issues. I've been a garbage can that's actually a reference to the 40s.
I'm an adult.
I've been the most evil man in the city.
And I've been a little boy hoping one day he'll turn into a big boy.
Stay in continuity.
Wait, I am a big boy. Oh no, what happened?
He ages immediately.
Yeah.